All right, seed talk, stuff to make your seeds walk. Um, anyways, Bobby's not with us right now. He's knocking down some walls. Uh-oh, sorry. Before you need to get your mind out the gutter. I said knocking down the walls, and I am referring to him doing some home remodeling. Um, so grill seed talk. Let's start tagging some people and whatnot. We want to talk about this topic today of cultural appropriation. And I just kind of want to have a conversation of what is the difference between cultural appropriation and actual cultural appreciation and celebration. I wanted to tag some people and whatnot, get them on here so they can join in. I trust y'all do the same. Please share this video, like it, do whatever you can to promote it. Um, my cash app is $ logic. I'm in if you want to donate to our time here tonight, and if I get enough donations, it can go towards me actually self-publishing some more books, some more mini books and whatnot. But we on here. Um, like I said, no tank top Bob right now. He's knocking down walls. He's doing some remodeling. Get your mind out the gutter. And we got Precious and we got Trisha. So it's a little bit of an imbalance right now. We know we like to have Bobby on here, with his ankle socks and his suits, but it'll be all good. And him, talking about my facial cream and my facials I do before I get on screen. Um, but we're all good. How's y'all week been so far? Can't hear you if you're saying anything.
It's been all right. I celebrated my dad's 60th birthday on Saturday, so it was
You
a
said
very
60th?
yep. My dad turned 60 on Saturday.
You out here putting this man's business out here,
Yeah, all right.
spelling his
He's
his his
good.
age
He,
T.
That is so
he
cool.
I think that's the first birthday party we had for him in years.
Yeah,
Normally don't be
yeah,
around for his birthday. He'd be out doing his own thing. So
That's
it was a really good party that we had for him. Although there was people showing up, we didn't know who the hell they were. I'm like, hold on, who are you and what are you doing in our house? Because I don't recall you getting an invite. And it's
it be like that sometimes.
like,
If you got a very popular family member and whatnot, it be
that
like that. Sometimes
he
people show up and you don't, um,
wow, that's so cool.
know who they are.
yeah, there was definitely some people like, who are you? There was like, I swear, there probably was maybe 50 people at that party. There was a lot of people. I was like, who are these people? My dad
Yeah,
invited half the town up in here, but yeah, it was a very good event though. My dad was very happy.
I
That's
wanted
cool.
to let's
Okay.
get right into the topic real quick though. I don't think this is going to take long, but it can be a pretty heated debate. And, I hear constantly cultural appropriation. That's cultural appropriation. That's cultural appropriation. And it seems like there's an intersection. Well, I know there's an intersection that cultural appropriation, colonialism, and gentrification share. And as soon as we start talking about colonialism, as soon as we start talking about gentrification, then it's like, oh man, they're gentrifying. And I have even heard black people say that other black people in the diaspora are culturally appropriating other black people if they're from a different culture, like a black person from America wearing locks. I've heard that argument. You know what I'm saying? That if you're not from Jamaica or you don't know the history, then that's culturally appropriating. Or if you're wearing if you're not African and you're wearing like cultural gear like I'm wearing right now with the dashiki print or even Ndinkra print, or if you have Ndinkra symbols on you, like you're culturally appropriating West African, um, you know what I'm saying, art and whatnot, you being an American black. And then I've heard it go the other way. Then that's cultural appropriation and Africans that come over here and they're doing hip hop. I mean, it's like, oh my goodness. And then of course you got, the more traditional allegations of cultural appropriation with white people wearing locks or white people doing yoga. You know what I'm saying? Your white people seems like they're getting called out for cultural appropriation more than anybody for obvious reasons. I even heard that Bruno Mars was, he's been accused of, of committing cultural appropriation for, performing R&B music. You know what I'm saying? So I just wanted to, tap in, and we can go anywhere you want to go on this whole spectrum of cultural appropriation. Let's just get the conversation started. What y'all think?
Honestly, I think we're all guilty to an extent of cultural appropriation at some angle or another, simply because no matter what culture that you are from, it's kind of you it kind of reaches limit after a while that you are going to look to other cultures to inspire you or influence you. And I think that's where the appreciation comes in at. Now, when you start appropriating, when I think appropriate, I'm thinking you're taking something from another culture that you really didn't, I guess, invested in or you came from, and you try to make it your own or to capitalize off of it. Kind of like when white people do rap music. That is something that African Americans created, and they come into the house of rap and they take that form of art and they capitalize off of it. That could definitely be a form of appropriation because they're not from that tradition. They could have possibly grew up around black people and had black friends, and they fell in love with rap music and said, I want to do some rap music. It's all cute and all, but it is kind of appropriation. But I think kind of what kind of comes down to is Adam being malicious about it. Like you purposely want to capitalize off of it because you know the people of that particular culture cannot get the same sort of pull as that person can, or is it simply out of naivety and they really do just like the art or the work? So I think it kind of come down with the intentions of the appropriation. But I think we all are guilty of it to some certain extent.
Right.
That's
And
how
to
I
a
look
certain
at it.
degree, it's really hard to determine a person's intention.
That
It's
too.
easier to determine someone's impact rather than it is to determine their intentions. Because someone can say, what I'm saying, they did it for whatever reasons, what I'm saying, or we can assume what their intentions are. But when we're doing social justice work and we're trying to heal communities, sometimes it's best to be a little bit more accurate and say, well, this is the impact that it created, you know? What do you think, Trisha?
Um, I don't think that everyone culturally appropriates. I think the problem is um, when the people that created that culture are disempowered and they observe other people making more money, not respecting the history. That's what frustrates them, and that's why they point out when people are appropriating. I think we have to make sure that we don't navigate like colonizers, like how white people culturally appropriate, because they tend to, there's a difference between respecting an art form or a culture and then wanting to be that culture. They tend to covet and want to Buffalo Bill everything. So they're like, oh, I like that aspect. So I'm going to do this and I'm going to become an expert and start charging people for what I saw for free from other people. That's when it becomes a problem, particularly because they tend to monetize everything. Um, and yeah, so examples, or even like when I think about, was it Chuck Norris, well known for like karate and stuff. It's like he was the first one to do it. He made all this money, despite the fact that there's an entire, culture and people that are experts from that culture, and yet he could. So that's what they tend to do.
AKA Bruce Lee.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
heard people get on black people though for the same thing. So if we're gonna go after Chuck Norris, they say, then why don't we go after the black people
Mhm.
who are, culture appropriating, kung fu. And then, my
Yeah.
comeback was like, dang, I guess the Wu-Tang Clan, they're guilty of culturally appropriating
And,
like kung fu, and because all the dang kung fu
mhm.
movies that they had and the whole branding around their hip hop group was based off that kung fu genre that was very popular with like the Run
Hmm.
Run Shaw and
Mhm.
Shaolin movies of the
Mhm.
70s.
And the sad thing about that is, and I love Wu Tang Clan and Clan and everything, but the sad thing is that we have like there are certain ethnic groups that we descend from that have like this stick fighting culture that my Hausa teacher was telling me about in Nigeria. That in houses that they do stick fighting. And he said, yeah, it's a lot like what you see elsewhere in like Asian communities, but that we have our own. And I didn't know that, but that's our legacy and ancestry that we could possibly, research, because that's, the cultures that we descend from versus borrowing from another. But then again, you could also say, Wu-Tang Clan wasn't making more money than, so not necessarily monetizing it more than, but no, I shouldn't make
They
an
were making a lot of money.
I like I
They
just
made a lot of money.
shouldn't make an excuse
They
for
made
that.
a lot of
And
money
then
off
we
that.
need to probably gatekeep our own culture more and monetize it as well, because the frustrating part is seeing other people monetize it. And
Yeah.
being someone from, like, example, from New Orleans, and when I was teaching my specific culture's dance style, I if someone white showed up, and literally someone white did show up in Seattle doing the exact same thing, oh, our customers are more comfortable with her, despite the fact that this person went to my classes, paid to go to my classes, and then monetize this whole fitness program based on what she had from my class. So, and yeah, from my culture, that was irritating. And that's what usually happens.
Right. Yeah. You know, I go back and forth with, can black people appropriate? And even if we can, does it really matter? You know what I'm saying? To the point, it's kind of like it kind of shares some intersection with, can black people be racist? And Kimani, he said black people can't appropriate, in my opinion, because we're not in a position of power. We do have some power, but I understand what he's saying when he's talking
I
about
get
like
what he's trying
greater
to say though.
minority.
Mhm.
When we talk about what Trisha described, that's just gross. It just really is. When you're doing your cultural dance and you're teaching white people, they come underneath you as an apprentice and they're learning, and then they take that, they go teach it, and then they draw people away from you because they feel more comfortable around a white figurehead.
Yeah.
That in itself is gentrification. That in itself
Hmm.
is a form of uh, colonialism, and
Mhm.
that is, a form of cultural appropriation. And white people and people with privilege in general, but specifically white people, have a hard time knowing how to give up their privilege to
Mhm.
make it work for everybody. And the reason why the majority of the time that it's cultural appropriation for white people and not for other people is because they are in positions of power to use that bias that people often have towards whiteness and white supremacy to their advantage, and to not only use it to their advantage but to actually oppress other people.
Mhm.
Now, if people are going to a white person instead of Trish, knowing dang well Trish is the person that taught the white person, and
Mhm.
they are economically depriving Trisha of money, then that's a form of economic exclusion and not economic inclusion, which is a form of colonialism, which is a form and a branch of white supremacy. We're
Right.
going to go to the white people because just by the color of their skin, we are deeming them more professional, more of a expert, and just more safe than a black person. You know,
Right.
um, I have a
That's
like a go
that's kind
ahead.
of like with yoga. If you think about it, if you
Yeah,
look at a yoga instructor, they all been mostly then
yeah,
white people. I don't see it from an Indian or a Middle Eastern or even a black person. I have not seen that, especially out
right,
here in Texas. I haven't seen that. So yeah,
right.
you're correct.
I do have some pushback when it comes to black people being accused of cultural appropriation when it comes to, like, for instance, I think martial arts is a great example. Now
Mhm.
some people might say that I'm petty when I say, well, all life and civilization started and began in Africa.
Right.
So when we're talking about the creation of all these things, you mean to tell me they didn't have a form of self-defense
Mhm.
prior to it going to Asia? Why are we discounting that? If I'm being petty by saying all life began in Africa, so therefore we become the creators of most, if not all, things in antiquity, then you're being petty by not counting it.
Mhm.
But the thing is this, we know that colonialism, when they stepped on the scene, they created these geopolitical boundaries. They divided us up between cultures. And we know prior to colonialism taking over and white people really being dominant in the economic trade system, we had what we call like the Asiatic trade routes,
Mhm.
which was a community that existed between what is now Africa and Asia, to the point there wasn't any geopolitical lines to separate the two, and we see each other as one. That's where we get the term Asiatic from.
Mhm.
Because if you go to the roots and you go to the foundations of most, if not all Asian, civilizations, it's going to be dark. It's going to be broad nose. It's going to be big lips, and it's going to be nappy hair. They're melanated people. And with colonialism came people getting, and it came with classism too. People wanting to be lighter because light is, aligned with being better or having more money. So that's why you see a lot of people in Asia, they're wearing, they have those hats on to block their face from the sun, and they're wearing umbrellas, and whiteness is a form of like prestige and supremacy and beauty and things like skin whitening creams, and they're doing all kinds of stuff with their eyes. A lot of it has to do with, classism, but a lot of it has to do with internalized racism. That's a big debate in the Asian community too. They're
Yeah.
having this debate because Asian people will argue down. I ain't got nothing to do with white supremacy. That has everything to do with, classism and stuff like that. But then some Asians, usually the darker ones, Southeast Asians, will be like, no, that has a lot to do with racism. You know what I'm saying? And we know, getting back to the appropriation thing, like when we talk about the samurai, I read it. It said that to be a samurai, you had to have some kind of black blood. Why is that? That's a form of martial arts.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So I have a hard time, if you trace your roots back and you understand the foundation is Africa, and you're using that knowledge to bring people together. I have a hard time for when black people start promoting different forms of martial arts, especially when we talk about like capoeira that came out of Angola, you know what I'm saying? That's practiced in Brazil and actually is the foundation of breakdancing. That's really a martial arts. I have a
Mhm.
hard time with people saying that we appropriate something when everything came from us. Like, how is that even possible?
Right.
It's like the same thing where they're like, well, you talk about white people having afros and getting butt injections and things in their lips and um this, that, and the third, but black women is sitting up here getting weaves and stuff. Where do you think white people got that hair texture from? It all came from us. Like,
Right.
we were wearing wigs back in the day.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Uh, I went to the Ashanti Kingdom in Kumasi in Ghana, and I seen the queen of Ashanti Kingdom. They said that she used to change her hair so the king could feel like he was with a different woman every night or every week. So she was rocking wigs. So I think that that was pre and post colonialism that we were rocking wigs. And if you look at hieroglyphics, which is pre colonialism, they were rocking wigs. They had straight hair.
Mhm.
Some of them times they had afros. There was a variation and stuff like that. Um, if we don't call it cultural appropriation, then what do we call it? When black people imitate and mock white people or other cultures or races without any kind of knowledge of what they're doing. Like, you ask him why you doing that, and he's like, I'm just doing that. I think it looks cool. If that's not cultural appropriation, then what is it?
Hmm. I mean, we've
That's
all.
my question.
Oh, huh.
Well,
Maybe it's getting.
well,
Oh, go on.
Yeah.
I don't think would that fall under appreciation, or it could be ignorant. Maybe they just don't know.
he said he said we call it ignorance.
I mean, yeah, because I think
Cultural
some people,
ignorance.
yeah,
Hey, Hey, that's
Cultural
kinda, that's
ignorance.
kinda like to the point and bold, but if you don't know or if you're ignoring what you could know, that is ignorance.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it's not cultural appropriation. One way to put it is it's cultural,
Ignorance, yeah.
cultural ignorance.
Mhm.
I think when black people putting on wigs and like especially wigs and weaves and perming their hair and doing things to straighten their hair, um, if they're um, if they're not doing it like with knowledge that we used to do it back in the day, or they're not, I'm saying, paying homage to straight haired melanated people or straight haired black people that exist in different parts of the world. We
Mhm.
see, people like in Australia, if I'm not
Mhm.
mistaken, have straight hair and they have blue eyes and things of that nature.
Mhm.
Yeah, the blue contacts is another, allegation that they make against black people, that's cultural appropriation. I think if when black people are oppressed and they feel like they have to do certain things to fit in, I don't see that as cultural appropriation. I see that as cultural assimilation.
Mhm.
And if we didn't have the pressure to marginalize ourselves and the pressure to be accepted amongst a dominant minority, let's be clear, a dominant minority in this global planet,
Mhm.
then we wouldn't be doing those things. I mean, it opens up a whole different variety of choices that we can be making if we didn't feel like we'd be punished for not trying to be and look like our oppressor. I mean, that's the reason why a lot of people are getting skin whitening creams. I went to Africa and that was huge in Africa.
Mhm.
It's skin whitening creams. And that has everything to do with the fact that the darker the skin, increases your distance from, certain you know, uh, um, set of
Mhm.
privileges, pardon self.
Right.
So it's just like I have a hard time when black people are trying to assimilate, putting a cultural appropriation tag on them. Um, but that doesn't mean that but they're any less ignorant. Two things can be true at the same time, right? So you can be ignorant and still trying to assimilate. You
Mhm.
know, um,
Mhm.
if a black person is not even trying to learn the culture of, a certain group of people that they don't identify with, but they're willing to uh, profit from it, then that's problematic. You
Hmm.
know what I'm saying? It may not be the same thing as a white person, but it could have the same impact. I've heard some Native American brothers and sisters get very upset when black people, are adorned in certain Native American, attire, and to the point they're like, man, y'all need to prove y'all lineage. Black people just love calling themselves Native American, but we want to see the proof.
That's the
That
same
kind
group they
of
ask of white people because
Now they
I
be asking black people sometimes
see
too.
an awful lot of white people that suddenly become Native American
Yep.
for yeah, arguments or to say that, oh yeah, I have a great, so I think it's cultural ignorance on Black people's part, but it's also ignorance of Black people on other groups. Because when you say genetically, we are the original. So technically, everyone, everything that exists in any other race or ethnicity exists within us. So even with Native Americans, there are Black Native Americans. So we're everywhere. So sometimes other groups will make the assumption that, oh, you're appropriating because you don't look like us, but we are everywhere. So we're everywhere that we are also forced to assimilate into these other cultures. So we do have intimate knowledge of other cultures. Yeah, there are some things, when we look at others and then we'll take on things that we are then appropriating. But since we're the original and I guess everyone is a bit of us, there's a big assumption when the automatically or when people approach us and tell us that, oh, you're appropriating us. They don't know what our background
Hmm.
is, particularly
They
since
don't know what your
we're
reference
everywhere.
is.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that deserves and earns a conversation though, instead of making assumptions and assuming that someone's appropriating. I think the more healthy and productive um intro would be, tell me more about that.
Mhm.
Why the feathers? Why the headdress? You know what I'm saying? Why the spirit catcher? Why you got that hanging above your bed? Why the burning of sage? And I think that if people open it up like that, it gives a person the opportunity to say, well, I'm doing this because of this. And then the other person can say, well, did you know this? And it's like, okay, I didn't know that. Let's do some research together. And I think that when it comes specifically for Native Americans and Black people, they would see a huge, huge intersection, connection, and relation between them and the African diaspora, because there's a ton of evidence and a ton of research. They came before Columbus. And there's other stuff that was done by John Henry Clark and things that Jerome Bennett, that talks about that the indigenous people here in North America and the Caribbean were actually Africans that migrated here long before the transatlantic slave trade, and that the transatlantic slave trade, or the African Maafa, is just one period of time. But we've been here for thousands of years. I mean, you look up, the origins of the word California, and it goes back to an African or Black queen. Look it up. you know so it's just like, we got to be open to learning more. And I think a lot of times when we learn something that pacifies our curiosity, we kind of like come to a resolution. It's like, oh, I'm gonna stay right here. I'm good. I know enough, and this is not only my truth, this is the absolute truth, and I ain't got to learn anymore, because what I'm saying, this satisfied my curiosity. And I think we do that to placate ourselves, so we won't have to answer any other questions like, are you sure that's right? Because I read something where someone else saw it a different way. And then what you're going to learn is, throughout history, you're always going to have this situation where I hold up a 6 and then someone else says 9, because they're looking from a different vantage point. And that's okay, because you can have your truth, I can have my truth, but there's still the opportunity for us to come together and have a collective truth together that we can agree on. Um, Nigel said there is, and I trust I said your name right. There is a book called Hair Story. It talks about the history behind our hair. That's dope. I'm gonna have to check that out. Let's put that in the notes. I got a question for you, real quick. I want to go through a couple of scenarios and situations,
Uh-oh.
and I don't have my whiteboard. Look at Precious. You're so cute. Oh.
So come on with these
And
scenarios.
I want to ask some questions. Okay.
Uh-oh.
Bruno Mars. Let me put that up there. Is that cultural appropriation?
I'm gonna say this. I can see how someone would see it that way,
Uh-huh.
because let's keep it real. While Bruno Mars do make what I like to call, a lot of people gonna get mad at me for this, and I like Bruno Mars, but I have to call a spade a spade. He makes what I like to call that great value R&B music that's commercialized.
Great. Sorry.
But, and the reason why I say I can see somebody would call that, because let's keep it real. The type of music that Bruno Mars makes, many black people make that similar type of music, but it's not going to hit mainstream like that. He has a bit of an advantage.
He does, but is it? But is see?
Yeah.
I have to push back on that. I understand what you're saying. That's a good point. That has merit. However, does he control that advantage though? Because I would argue that the industry controls that advantage. He said that he gives his props and respect
Mhm.
to the Black people that came before him,
Mhm.
His mom, I think he's
Yeah,
Filipino, and one of his
And
Filipino,
parents
Puerto
are
Puerto
from
Rican,
Rican,
and
I
Puerto
all
think.
that.
Rico.
He does have
And so
some
he definitely
African
is a part of the
ancestry.
diaspora, though.
Mhm.
He's definitely
Yeah.
part of the African diaspora because we know that indigenous Filipino people or Pinoy come from what they would call the Twa, or
Mhm.
what they would, the derogatory term would be pygmy. But there is an intersection between the Twa people that some researchers, let me be clear, have traced them back to Africa and they migrated to the Philippines. But let's also be clear too, when the Spanish conquistadors came into the Philippines, there were enslaved Africans on that boat too. And if you go up into the hills and you look at those Filipinos, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, they look like Negroes. They look like cousins.
Yeah, I can see how someone would look at it as
Yeah.
that, but honestly,
Yes.
he got a little Puerto Rican.
Is
I
that a
think he was
is that
Puerto
a
Rican.
vertical joke?
I don't know. Did I say that? If I did, my apologies. But I believe he does have Puerto Rican. I believe,
Mhm.
but I would say with him, I can see why someone would look at that, but I also
Right.
would say this is why will come with cultural ignorance. I don't think it's really on his part because, as you can see, who he works with, it's mostly black people. So he
Mhm.
probably doesn't know any better, and he just going on the floor of what other black people are probably instructing him. Say, like, let's make this jam, and he going around with it. But I can see how someone would say he's culturally appropriating. But hey, many
Dang, but
black people stand up for Bruno Mars, so
oh, yeah, I want to hear what Trisha says because I got one more comment to make about Bruno. Go ahead. What you
I
think,
don't
Trisha?
think he's appropriating because he
Okay.
does have some, he has indigenous ancestry. He also brings other Black musicians and artists with him, and he pays them well versus some
Mm,
other people that
that's a good
use
point.
us as decoration. No, he still, so he respects the art form. He also respects the Black people he has working with him, and he has indigenous ancestry. So I don't
Mhm.
think he appropriates.
Okay. Nigel then did Bruno
Yeah.
Mars's whole
yeah,
DNA
I feel you.
background.
I feel
Got
I
his
was right
DNA
there.
profile. She done did his whole family tree. He said he's mixed, Filipino, Spanish, Jewish, and Puerto Rican. She threw the Jewish up in there too. I didn't even know that. He might be Falasha. But listen, um,
Give us somebody else.
uh,
'Cause I got some more.
but here's the deal, because I'm about to hit you with another one real quick.
Mhm,
That's pretty is even more common than Bruno Mars.
mhm,
But before I say that, I want to say this. So, given a person like Bruno Mars, are they really supposed to be apprehensive with their talent that they have? Are they supposed to be like, oh my God, I can really sing really good? And when I sing, it sounds like, what I'm saying, a stereotypical R&B, black person, who does that music. Should I suppress, my talent because I don't want to be accused of appropriating this form of, culture or this form of music? It's like, are we really asking people to suppress, what I'm saying, what they're good at because they may run the fear of appropriating it?
No, I think we're just
No,
asking for them to respect where the art form came from and
yeah.
respect the people. Because if you want to what sound black and sing black, and you don't care about black people, then that's when we have a problem with
I
you.
mean, with all
Right.
due respect, I can tell that Bruno Mars. And I don't hear a black person sing when I hear Bruno Mars singing. He's a good singer, but I
Yeah,
know my
he's
ear is trained. I already know that it's not black.
You
But
don't hear a black person? You say you
hell no, hell no. I can not. No, I can definitely tell by my ear. Well, personally, I don't.
I can definitely hear some Michael Jackson influences up in there.
ooh,
Michael
Michael.
had a hell of a voice.
I hear the influences. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
That might be a petty reach for me because who hasn't Michael Jackson influence? But still, I'm gonna go ahead and say it. Dre, I need you to chill out. We getting there, bro. I'm getting there. I'm
Oh,
getting
wait,
there.
Oh no!
wait,
I'm getting
Oh,
there.
wait,
you can't
this.
bring up Justin
Calm
Timberlake, Greg.
down. That's
Ooh, I
that's
can.
just like that's just too easy because Justin Timberlake was gonna be included in my Eminem
Here too.
analysis.
Uh,
So is Eminem and Justin Timberlake, are they culturally appropriating? black music, Eminem with hip hop music, and Justin Timberlake with R&B?
You can go first because I got a lot of opinions on
No,
it.
Justin Timberlake. Now that one is definitely a cultural appropriation. As a matter of fact, I'll call Justin Timberlake a cultural vulture. That's what I would call Justin Timberlake all the way through.
I don't like the term culture vulture because our music and culture ain't dead.
You think he's dead?
Yeah, a vulture eats something that's dead. I wouldn't like to. I don't think our
Well,
culture is dead.
well,
But anyways, go ahead.
not in a literal sense, but Justin Timberlake, that's the worst of the worst. I can
Okay.
tolerate Bruno Mars
Hmm.
I would tolerate Bruno Mars and Eminem to an extent over Justin Timberlake, but Justin Timberlake is definitely an appropriator.
Okay.
Absolutely, that's not even
And what makes him different than Eminem then?
Robin. Leave with Eminem. I don't hear him too much disrespecting other black artists that I know of. I think he did
Oh,
came out
yes,
of
he
Ja
has.
Rule. I
Yes,
think
he.
Eminem?
Ja Rule probably one of them. But Justin
Yeah,
Timberlake
Mariah Carey?
really.
yeah.
Well, Mariah
Eminem.
Carey.
Yeah,
We'll talk about
Eminem.
Mariah Carey
I
another
mean, he
time. That's another
disrespected
subject.
Mariah.
That's Mariah Carey
Hey,
another subject.
someone might say Mariah Carey is culturally appropriating. This is how deep it gets. But go ahead.
That's debatable too. That's debatable too. But
Yeah,
yeah, but Justin Timberlake, oh yeah, he definitely appropriates.
man.
Yeah.
I
People are
just,
saying Eminem is no. They're saying a no. They're saying
no,
no.
Well,
He doesn't appropriate.
honestly, no. Eminem,
Yeah.
mm,
What you think,
good
Trisha? What you
talent.
think? Because you
so
get an Eminem. Get him, girl.
essentially,
We'll talk
so
about
based
Eminem.
on, so I have to preface this by saying, I don't know if people watching this know, but my dad, whose birthday was yesterday, he played with Fats Domino for years. He named him. He was around a lot of culture vultures and I would say appropriators, people like Pat Boone, and he would tell me stories about, how, Richard or someone would make a song, Pat Boone would make it, and for the white audience. So I feel like Justin Timberlake is the Pat Boone of hip hop and also like Latinx music. Anybody who's singing anything, he needs to align himself with and then take over. And because he's done songs with J Balvin, also Justin Timberlake, I think, is an appropriator. Eminem, I don't think he's an appropriator only because I don't really consider what Eminem does as hip hop. I think he's like whip hop, white hip hop. Even the song like "My Name Is M," that didn't sound like. Come on, I was listening to
I'm gonna have to side with you
that
on that
didn't
one.
sound like
I'm
him.
gonna side with you on
Come
that
on.
one. So if you think about it, I don't recall the hood ever playing Eminem's music. Now I don't sit here and
Oh
think
yeah,
about it.
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
I
gosh,
don't think we play his music. So you know what? You may just be on to something.
he's yeah. What he does, I respect what he does. It's the white version of hip hop that really resonates with. I've liked his songs that he's done with Rihanna on occasion,
I
but
do.
otherwise,
I do like that
Ooh,
song.
that's kind of
him,
that's
I
the
hate
song with the one with Rihanna is highly problematic.
That
And
is
for
love
me,
the way you
that
lie.
which
for
one?
me, well, for me, if there's any, that's one of the few negative things I do have to say about Eminem. And I
Mhm,
didn't appreciate when Rihanna fed into that too. Is because
mhm.
that would happen right after she had gotten to that physical
Oh,
conflict with
Yes.
Chris Brown, and then it was not cool
that's
what
true.
happened between her and Chris Brown, and for her to turn around and kind of do a pro domestic violence songs with a white man.
Oh yeah, that was.
Yeah.
Ah,
I think he
that
counted
that
his
that
It is
that
a
song.
good
rubbed me the wrong
song.
way. I
It is
didn't
a
like
He
what they
used
were
that
doing
for
with that.
marketing to sell his song.
Yeah,
yeah.
and the song was like
Mhm,
huge, and they were, rightfully so, you
yeah,
know, um, getting at Chris Brown. But it's like it's okay for him to rap about tying you to a bed and then burning you, and you're all into it. Like it was just
oh,
really weird.
Yeah.
It was
He
bizarre. It was a different kind of like racism,
that
you
is
know.
true. I didn't
Um,
think about
but
that.
yeah. I yeah.
But
and then Justin Timberlake had the situation with Janet Jackson where
ugh,
people felt like he didn't come to
Her
her
aid at
support and
all.
didn't
yeah,
advocate for her when during Nipplegate. and I understand that. I see that. Um, the thing is as an artist listening to these other artists, I can't deny the fact that they make good music. Um, I think Timberlake makes some really good music. I think Eminem is a very talented artist, but I don't always feel the music he makes.
I would
Um,
say his
I
music didn't age well.
no,
It
neither did
didn't age
he.
well at all.
Neither did he. But anyways, but I don't really I think he's really talented. I didn't like in the beginning. I don't know if I would necessarily call it appropriation, but it's kind of leaning towards that way. I guess at the end of the day, if I would sum it up, my diagnosis would be Eminem is an appropriator. And the reason why I say that is I think he does a good job of putting on other black people. I think he does a good job of not trying to be black. He's just like he's a goofy, quirky white dude. I appreciate that. Um, he even raps in his own quirky way that Trisha even admits like it's not even real. It doesn't sound like hip hop to her. It's like a white version. It's kind of like a nerdy, like super technical. Yeah, he's sounding out all his syllables and stuff. Um, but the fact that he would come at black artists like Will Smith and say, "Well, Will Smith doesn't think he has to cuss, but I do." It's like, why would you take someone who is so safe and so, sanitized and, like a kid friendly, non-toxic, doesn't make any music that's harmful to our community, in the messaging. Why would you attack him?
You know what?
And then why would you hold on? Then why would you turn around and put on so many black people whose messaging is so anti-community? It's so gun clap, so much drug using.
I
That I
Yeah,
had a problem
that
with
is
that.
true.
I had a problem with that. Even though I like those rap artists that he put on, I like West Side Gun. But
Mhm,
with a person who doesn't have an education on what they're actually rapping about, that
mhm,
we shouldn't be glorifying drug use and homicide and self-hate and um, the fascination and love of material objects. That
mhm,
music, the messaging is not cool. I would rather, you know, you not make fun of Will Smith because he doesn't cuss, because that creates some kind of balance.
mhm,
I know
mhm.
at one point he was trying to sign Dead Prez,
mhm,
but it didn't work out. And I wonder why it didn't work out. I wonder why it didn't work out, that he signed a highly political pro-black group that has
mhm,
very, very conscious and uplifting messaging for the black community.
mhm,
Not only when it comes to spiritual and culture, but also like dietary and health. They had a song that talked
mhm,
about eating healthy, about being vegan. Um
mhm,
uh my man made a whole album about working out, staying physically fit. So I would have liked to see him not make fun of Will Smith,
mhm,
put on Dead Prez, along with putting on all these other black people who have such toxic, quote unquote, toxic messaging for our community. That's why, I don't really be feeling him, amongst other reasons. Like not all
mhm.
his music is I'm not really feeling it. He's talented, but I could probably name on one hand like 5 songs that I'm really, really feeling Eminem.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I agree, and now I'm thinking about it. I remember with Eminem, he take a lot of shots at people, and I think when he
Mhm,
came at Will Smith, he's basically what I like to call a hit dog will holler, because he felt some kind of. I remember Will Smith. I think it was the MTV Award. I forgot what year it was. That's when the
mhm,
West Wild Wild West was out. He was made that speech. I actually do remember that. So hit dog will holler, and that's why Eminem got in his feelings. But I never understood now, especially now I'm older. I never understood why he was coming from other pop artists who probably wasn't even thinking about Eminem.
mhm,
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
Yeah,
think he's just one of those people. He's like that classic guy in high school who never got attention from the popular people, so he feels the need to try to put them out on blast, thinking they're gonna give him some attention. He
yeah,
clouded.
Mhm.
He was clouding
yeah,
before the word became popular. He was clouding then.
He's
yeah,
always battle rapping.
Yeah, yes.
yeah.
Always, yeah.
How do people avoid being cultural appropriators? Let's talk about that for the record. When we talk about an action plan as we move forward, how do you avoid being a cultural appropriator?
Well,
Because
first you got.
yeah, because
Go
I
ahead.
you know I really started thinking about this where people be like, white people are culturally appropriating black people
Mhm,
and Jamaicans and like enslaved black people of the maroon colonies when they're wearing locks. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I can see what they mean by it's culturally appropriate. I definitely agree. I see that. However, I'm not really into telling people what to do with their own body. Like those are their hair follicles. I really can't.
mhm,
But if they started like profiting off of that and is used to oppress, other black people,
mhm,
got a problem with that. If people
Correct.
start going to white people to get their hair locked and they start, becoming making, hey man,
yeah.
it could happen. In the next 20 years, we could be looking down the barrel of, predominantly, um, all white hip hop enterprises where we got to go through not just white people on the administrative levels to get put on, but the artist level too. And we've
It
kind of
happens a lot.
suppressed that move. We've kind of suppressed that movement a little bit. But if
Mhm,
history serves to be true, they've already stolen other art forms like
mhm,
jazz, like rock and roll. Maybe hip hop will be like gospel music,
mhm,
where it will never ever get suppressed because it's just too difficult for them to be like taken seriously. But it's happened. It's definitely happened. But and I start thinking about other things. Like, so if a white person wearing locks is cultural appropriation, then a white person doing yoga is cultural appropriation, right?
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
It
So
is.
how do people avoid being cultural appropriators?
I think they have to educate themselves of what is what they're trying to appropriate and the reason why they're doing it. And they also need to think about how what people that
Mm,
particular thing came from would affect people of that culture. That's the first thing. I think that's the real problem. I think a lot of people just take it and not understanding what they're doing. Like for instance, I do love the Asian culture. I love them cheongsam dresses. I would love to wear one, but I know me being black, that may not be the smartest move to do because there may be some level of significance to wearing that type of dress.
mm,
So
mhm,
I kind of refrain from doing that because I
mhm.
could just appreciate it from a distance. But I'm not going to appropriate that because again, I'm not sure what that sort of dress could signify. In Asian culture, a lot of stuff has some sort of significance too. So if I'm not
Mhm.
aware of what that is and I'm just ignorantly putting it on, that's kind of irresponsible in my opinion.
Right.
Mm,
So the days are over of just wearing something because it looks fly.
Yeah, I think it is in this time day and age. Yeah, I think you need to be a bit mindful. Granted, at the end of the day, you can do whatever you want to do. At the end of the day, it's your, like you said, it's your
Mhm.
body. But I do feel, I think we have to be mindful because that's kind of
Yeah.
what happened with. I'm not sure if anyone remembers. Victoria's Secret was doing like a cultural heritage sort of thing, and they had a woman dressed in a Native American headdress, and it was a big deal that they cut that out the whole show because the
mhm,
Native American was not having it. They said, no, you're not going to have this hairdress and have this woman half naked in a lingerie walking down the runway. We not, no, you can't disrespect that. So
Mhm.
again, I think we just have to educate ourselves and also take people from that community as to what if we can appropriate what kind of thing if we want to include that is there something going to be disrespectful because if it's not, we just would not do that. But
Yeah,
a
I
lot of
like what you
people
had
do
me
that.
in the beginning and said, ask yourself why you doing it.
Yeah, and there's that too.
You might be, what I'm saying, moonwalking or, what I'm saying, electric sliding into some cultural appropriation if you start off by not even knowing why you doing it. And you having me go through my whole, what I'm saying, wardrobe of what I got. When I went to China, I picked out, you see, I'm gonna have to put myself on blast. I picked out one of those shirts, like, those shirts that,
The
Bruce
Mandarin collar.
no, Bruce Lee wore one. He frequently wore one of those, like, it was black and then it's a certain style of like kind of a
Hmm.
shirt. I just thought it was a shirt. It might have some cultural significance. It might just be a shirt, but it might be
Yeah.
something bigger than that. I remember when I was younger.
Uh-oh, my computer's gonna die.
Oh, you about to, oh no, oh
Oh
no.
no, I'm gonna get my charger.
Okay, I remember when I was younger, I was
Yeah.
one of the few people, if not the only person who used to rock dashikis. And there was these brothers that were from Zimbabwe that we went to school with, and they'd be like, "You think you're doing something special? You think that you know African culture? That's just a shirt. Where I'm from, that's just a shirt." And I was like, "Oh, okay,
All
okay."
right, then.
And so I kind of like some people, carry that philosophy because they hear it from the native people, of those cultures when they say, "Well, a person from the who's a native of that culture said it was just a shirt, so that's what I'm doing. It has no significance." I
Yeah.
learned later on that a dashiki is more than just a shirt; it's actually a dress shirt. So it has a little bit more of a significance. It's almost like a formal shirt because when you wear like a dashiki, when I wear a dashiki in Ghana, when I wear a dashiki in Haiti, where there is a dominance of African people and people of the African diaspora, other people ain't wearing dashikis. They're looking at you like, "Damn, you dressed up, cousin. You look, I mean, you clean up really well." And so that's how I knew when I got older. It's like there is some significance, even if it's just surface level, to wearing a dashiki. You know what I mean? What you think, Trisha?
Oh my. Well, first when Precious, you were talking about the fashion show with Victoria's Secret. More recently, even with Fenty, the last Fenty show, where she had the white models with cornrows in their hair. There was a little bit of a controversy there, and even I was thinking, why would Rihanna do that? But I think the first step is if you have pride in yourself, you don't need to look externally. So I think we should first research our own culture before we start looking at other cultures. Particularly, I know that's probably hard for some of us as with Black Americans, but we should research our culture here because, yes, we do have cultures based on our regions. Find out as much as possible because if we're proud of our cultures here, then we don't need to go look externally and be so impressed by other cultures. I'm someone I have literally never I'm trying to think if my parents ever put me in another culture's clothing or I've never worn clothing from other cultures other than ones that I'm genetically related to or have been raised in. Even the
European culture, we've been adorning that.
yeah, but the 20 years that I lived in the
Yeah.
Netherlands, I never put on wooden shoes. I didn't do my hair like them
Oh,
because I
okay.
thought that would
Okay.
be
Okay.
ridiculous. Even though I had a Dutch passport, I could do that but I'm like, why would that's making it a costume. So that's why this is also timely for now because with this Halloween's coming up,
Gotcha.
people are going to
That's a
Yeah,
very
no.
good point. That's a
doing
very good
that
point.
as well. And it infuriates me. I once taught at a school where I was the first Black teacher that had taught at this school. And the five white male students decided for Halloween that their costume was, I was wearing my hair in an afro at the time. They decided to put on an afro. That
Mm.
was their whole Halloween costume.
I guess
So
they were Bob Ross.
no, they said that, oh, we liked your hair, so we thought that that would be a cool costume. And the five of them sitting in the front, and I turned around and I went to the principal and said, I'm not teaching the class today because this is distracting me to
Yeah.
have five of them. It also happened to be the week that I was forced to teach Huckleberry Finn. So I have five
Oof.
white students,
Got
white male students
126
with
niggers.
afros
Yep.
and, and they're like, oh, well, we just enjoy Black culture. And that's why we enjoyed her hair. So we wanted to wear her. Like, whatever, dude. So please be mindful. Study your own culture first. Please don't
Yeah.
put on another culture as a costume during Halloween as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Damn. That might be hard to do.
Ooh, study our own cultures? Or?
No,
Or
not put on someone else's culture
for
as a
Halloween.
costume. You know what? Because here's the deal, and I'm gonna go deep right now because I like what you said. The whole concept of Halloween
mm,
is stolen from voodoo.
yeah.
That's how I
Oh,
see it. The whole holiday is appropriation
Hmm.
to the fullest. I mean, it's one of the biggest, federal holidays.
Yeah.
They make a lot of money off of stuff that they've stolen and demonized from African spiritual systems, Yoruba, Santanera, Lukimi, and voodoo, hoodoo. The whole the dead rising up, and
Hmm.
you know what I'm saying? All that stuff comes not only from the Bible, it comes from African spiritual systems. You know what I mean? So dang, that's deep.
and to be
I
fair,
never thought of it
Halloween.
like that.
And to
Yeah.
be fair, Halloween is the only time of the year you can be somebody other than yourself.
Oh, well, I
Yeah.
know people who are other than themselves
Yeah, I mean, there's
all
people
the
that get that
day.
all
They
day
they
long,
I know
but that's
some
the
fake
one day
people
that
are
get.
every
It's
day. Ain't
that
gotta
one
be
day.
Halloween.
Yeah, it's that one day they get a pass for any other day you just
Yeah.
fake or
Yeah, I mean,
appropriate.
even if we go back to like Mexico, the Day of the Dead, like
Mhm.
that's
Yeah.
even more pure than Halloween. And I can even make the argument that's where they get Halloween from.
Yeah.
I love
And
Halloween.
they try to commercialize it and what I'm saying, kind of like fast food it, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But it's way more spiritual, even the Day of the Dead, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what we should
Well,
celebrate
you think
instead.
that you yeah, because actually when I was raising our children, co-raising them with my wife at the time, we didn't do Halloween. We did celebrating the harvest because that was more of an indigenous celebration and recognition of the relationship between earth and human beings. And that really essentially that is a part of what they would call Halloween. It is the harvest. There's a reason why they do
Mhm.
it during this part of it because Europeans take things they don't understand, they co-opt it, they mix it, and they make it a hybrid and say, hey, we can make some money off of it. And
Mhm.
it's another opportunity for us to, what I'm saying, frolic, have sex, and get drunk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And basically just mock people, what I'm saying, that we've oppressed. You know what I'm saying? You can that's the foundation of all their traditions. You know what I mean? I wonder what y'all think before I get into my call to action real quick. What do
Mhm.
y'all think about Bob Ross? Bob Ross rocking the afro. Afro, is that cultural appropriation? And I use Bob Ross because we all love Bob Ross. And I
That
like to
painter
see
guy,
black
ain't it, with the
people. I
fro?
like to see
Just the
black people
pain,
get
the
Bob
late
Ross a
Bob.
Yeah,
pass.
him.
Bob Ross get a pass?
I just thought he's had a bad perm.
Nah, no, it's
No,
I mean, the fact
it's
that it's a
different.
perm should be a cultural appropriation because that's not his real hair.
Oh, that wasn't.
It wasn't.
He's dead.
Nah, that's
We
not
have
his
to
real
give him
hair.
a pass. Can't do anything to him. He's dead.
Yeah, ain't no big deal. I don't know. But besides the fro, what else he could have done?
No, that's it. I mean, but the fro in itself could get you cooked. The fro in itself could be appropriation enough. I mean, we if we getting white folks for locks, we got to get Bob Ross for the fro.
It's more the personality of the ones that wear locks than
I
the fact
know,
Yeah,
that
huh?
yeah, I think it
it's always they're all I shouldn't say always. The majority of white people that I know that wear locks, they're usually irritating on some other level and very dismissive of black
I
people.
have seen that. Have
yeah.
seen that pattern. It seems like the more locked up and spiritual a white person gets, it seems like, and I'm making a generalization, it seems like the more and more they try to tell us about ourselves. Like they
Yes.
can
Boom.
do blackness, they can do melanin, they can do original, they can do indigenous better than us.
Mhm.
And it's like it comes across as really like pretentious and like arrogant.
Mm.
But
I've
again,
had
I'll admit I'm making generalizations. I'm stereotyping.
I will say that's the
So
same also the same
I'm not
case
saying that's the truth.
for white women that I've gone to that have taught or tried to teach me African dance, that have, yeah, West African, also another white woman that was teaching me Bahian samba. who was telling me that, oh, you dance very well for, and I know more about this. And you, oh, it's so ironic that I'm teaching you all about the Orishas. I'm like, you're not teaching me. I already know. She seemed to get some sort of sick,
Mm,
twisted pride. And look, this is a Black person, and I'm explaining her culture to her. And she's
mm,
paying me for that, right? I'm like, yeah, I only went once, but
dang.
there's something
I
about
know, I know. Nigel had asked if do we think Adele is culturally appropriating. I don't know. I don't think of Adele off. I kind of don't see it. I can see
I
how
don't either.
people
yeah.
people like to say she's singing them slave hymns, but I
Oh,
mean like.
oh, she be singing slave hymns.
Oh, I don't know. They say that she sound like it. I think
Oh,
"Rolling in the Deep" or
oh, oh,
something like that. I don't know what that song is. I
yeah.
might be made jokes about it. Say it sound like she singing a slave song. I'm like, she is she?
She's so
I don't
sweet.
know. I don't keep up with Adele.
I
I
know.
ain't keep up with Adele,
Yeah,
so I can't really comment on that.
I know she gets busy though. She sound good. A lot of those British and English
Mhm.
R&B vocalists sound like that. I mean, we can go back
Yeah,
to Rick Ashley. We can go back to
Amy Winehouse.
Wham. We can go back to. There's a whole.
Lisa Stansfield, I remember her.
Yeah, there's a
Oh,
whole slew
yeah.
of British and English vocalists that were very, very soulful, very, very soulful.
Mhm.
All right, my plan of action would be is kind of a continuation and an add on to what y'all were already saying is that um, due to knowledge behind everything that you're wearing that comes from a culture that you don't identify with. And if you don't identify with the culture, then ask yourself why you wearing it. I remember a friend of mine gave me some beads, you know what I'm saying? Actually, that I'm wearing right now. And it had the little kind of like the cloth and it kind of looked like a feather, but it was just like strings of cloth. And I know they're like Buddhist beads and whatnot. And I read at one time that they represent the wood that comes from the Bodhi tree that Buddha has sat underneath it and he had meditated. And that's why they hold them while they're meditating. Now, I don't know if there's some contrasting commentary and research on that. I like the I like the decor and I know the background of it, but I also know that there are many depictions of Buddha that I've seen at the Louvre, the British Museum, that looks like me.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So when I study something and I research it, I'm always going to take it back to its African origins because that's where we were one prior to colonialization. And I'm going to look at it from that aspect. That's why I'm wearing it because I'm trying to reunite and ignite a past that was disrupted by colonialism. So if I wear certain clothing that represents my Native American past, which I do have, it's because I want to unite, you know what I'm saying, with the past that was disrupted by colonialism and stuff like that. And I'm trying to um, visualize a diaspora that still exists on so many different levels, but is ignored because we're so divided because of colonialism and we don't have accurate history of who we are as a collective people. Just like someone said when I was talking about that Asiatic trade routes, someone put it in the Silk Road. That's exactly what it was called. So in
Mhm.
each seed talk, I plant seeds, and I want us all to throw out breadcrumbs. Go Google this stuff. If you old school, go get the microfilm at the library and look this stuff up. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like we be planting seeds and we leaving breadcrumbs for a reason. So if you don't go look stuff up and then come back, you know what I'm saying, and tell us what you found and share with someone else, then I think you missed the whole point of the broadcast.
Mhm.
Anyway, seed talk, stuff to make the seeds walk. It's been great. Tank Top Bob, I hope you have fun. I trust you have fun knocking down those walls, doing that remodeling. Knocking down those walls with that hammer of yours, hammering
What's
those
on the
walls
word?
in your tank top. Anyways, I know you're probably really tired knocking down those walls. Let me find out there ain't no remodeling that was done at your house tonight. Let me find out.
Oh my God.
We didn't see them before and after pictures
Let
because
me
it
find
might.
out. Let me find out that you was in the house of Yoni. Let me
Yeah,
find out you was in the house of Yoni. But Trisha and, and Precious, thanks for joining us for Sea Talk.
thank
We out.
you.
Anytime.
Love
Peace
y'all.
out.
Bye.
Peace.